Good afternoon and welcome back to Tech Thursday session. I'm your host, Corey Ducree. Hopefully, everyone had a chance to get them something good to eat. Um, just appreciative to have everyone back in the building with me. So, today we're going to go over a couple of topics we previously visited in Tech Tuesday. That's the reasoning for the opening screen to show you what it was that we did on Tuesday. I know on Tuesday we had a few technical issues that we needed to work through, and that's pretty fine. Those things happen. Um, but the thing that I wanted to hammer down the most is that uh, formulas and functions is a tool that we're going to constantly find ourselves utilizing when we're working with Excel, no matter whether you're a beginner, expert, anything like that. Once you learn the basics of Excel, you're going to move towards using the formula in some form or fashion. We tried to touch on a couple of those things on the earlier Tuesday session. I know we had some technical difficulties, but hopefully we worked those out, and we're going to try to get back to those things and reestablish the baseline for what we were talking about. By a show of hands, are you able to see my slide? Looks like I may be having a little bit of a lag, so I don't want to move too fast without everybody being able to at least seeing what I have. Okay. So Thomas sees it, JP sees it. Good to go. Good to go. All right. So what we're going to be covering here today is the basic introductions to our formulas. We're going to talk about some real world use cases for how we work with those here at the S-Days group with QED. We're also going to try to touch on nested functions if we can get past the demo today. I will kind of briefly discuss what nested functions look like, but they're kind of, a collaboration of the things that we're going to talk about in depth today. So if we don't get to them, that's fine. We'll revisit it at a later time. But the main focus is for us to be able to get into the content that I had prepared for you guys to view. And hopefully I can explain it in a way that's understanding to all. And also hopefully it helps you guys understand more about what it is that functions can do for you in your daily workflow. And that's a powerful tool. So, I liken it to having a thought process, but then having AI come in and formulate that thought process into a way that's a lot more of what you were trying to say, but couldn't really get it out. That's what formula does with Excel. It lets you visualize and manipulate the data in a much more useful and effective way, so you can do more things like present as opposed to trying to navigate through. And that's the real focus of what we want to, accomplish here. So again, breaking down what the magic is behind a formula. It's a data collection and analysis tool, primarily the reason why Excel is so big and popular and what it is that it does. Formulas are key in effectively calculating and understanding how your data works, creating different shortcuts for your data. There are some fundamental rules that we want to realize when we're working with formulas. One of the main things is how we start our formula, or being able to identify when you click into a cell whether or not that cell has a formula attached to it, and that's going to be the equal sign. So if you can remember, and I'll point it out to you, but if you look in the search bar or the formula bar of an Excel sheet, you'll notice that when you click into a cell that has a formula inside of it, it'll begin with an equal sign. And also, what the equal sign does is when you actually put the equal sign in, it'll give you some sort of indication of what it is that you might want to do. And that's very useful for looking for formulas or looking for the syntax to start your formula out. So that's a very powerful tool. Another rule to remember is if we can think back to when we learned arithmetic, for some of us more seasoned employees, when we learned our math functions, we learned the order of operations. Well, that's no different here. Formulas work in the same aspect. So they tend to consume what's inside of the parentheses in a manner that allows you to start from one side and move to the next, just to make sure that you actually accomplishing what it is that you're looking for. And so you just want to kind of revisit the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally for those of you who don't know what that is, just so you can understand how to create your formulas, or if you're looking at one, just to read through it and try to understand what the formula is actually doing for you. All right, so there's a couple of formulas here that are some useful formulas. We won't get into all of them, but some of them that we will touch on today for sure will be the VLOOKUP, or just the lookup as a whole in itself. So the lookup has several different use cases, and depending on how your data is structured, is going to depend on which actual lookup that you're going to utilize. And then just like anything, you have to start somewhere and then you just build on it. Just like, Tech Tuesday, we started at the basics of teams, and then we built on our skills. And then each session that we continue to attend, we build on skills further. So it's like a stepping stone. And that's what happens with the index match. It's kind of a stepping stone to what the lookup tool originally was, in a much better way, or a much more efficient way to actually do the things that you need to do, which is basically look through your data in a large setting and kind of slide it into a much more consumable, smaller piece of information that you need to either talk about, present, or just kind of keep track of. So, and that's what index match kind of does at a better and more efficient manner. All right. So just to kind of, touch back on some of the things that you covered previously, some of the basic Excel functions are essential to tools and data management. They simplify tasks, improve accuracy, and help communicate insight clearly by automating calculations and organizing information efficiently. Now that's a mouthful, but essentially is what that says is you're gonna know what you need to do, but then we're going to have a nice old trick for you to do it in a much more usable and easier way. So it's no different than carrying everything around, and then all of a sudden somebody went ahead and invented the pockets, and it's like, oh, well, put that there and then free up your hands, you can do more. Same thing with formulas. Just to simplify and give you a little bit of humor, that's the same thing what formulas does. It's like, okay, we got a worksheet, we got all of our data here, and then, I got some cool pockets here, which we call formulas, and we're going to sit some of those items into these pockets. So when we need them, we'll just reach right into that pocket or formula and get back what it is that we're looking for. The core functions help QED teams like operations, planning, and execution streamline data workflows and ensure clear, consistent, and actionable information. So the VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, or just lookup in this whole is just for finding values in the table. So if you remember a couple sessions back, we talked about collections of data being tables, where you kind of put it in the worksheet, but then when you actually wanted to collectively have data, you call that a table. And tables can have names, and those names can be individually set so you can understand what data it is that you're trying to visualize. Or when you get in a worksheet and you have multiple tables, you can name those tables individually so you can know that when you need to access a particular set of data, you can just go to something that you can remember easily. The if statement. Now, the if statement is something that we're going to touch on. I'm going to kind of display a little bit of it just so you can, see what it does, and kind of use that along the lines of the nested function feature. But it's just a logical test. So basically, let's say if you need to maybe have some actionable items for different departments, You might want to have an if statement to say that data seen in this set is a certain way. If not, see it this way. If not, see it that way. That's what an if statement does. It's just a logical text, just to give you a gate, if that makes sense. Open up and close depending on what it is that you want to do. Concatenation or joining is just merging your data together. So, you want to concatenate a data set. You want to take a cell here and you want to put a cell there, and those two need to interact to join some sort of grand like format, or they need to like say you need ship class, and then you need a whole number, so you want to concatenate those together, so whatever data that corresponds with that, those can kind of work together, and that's what you'll use a concatenation tool for. We're not going to get into that today because that's a little bit more advanced topic, and I just don't have the time or the bandwidth to be able to show that to you. Left to right, they're kind of self-explanatory. They pull characters of text, different areas, different directions, and then the data or the time and date is another way to basically visualize a time and place or a date. So if you have like data that's say population regularly, but you want to make sure that when that last interval was capsulated, you might want to use a today formula to be able to say that, hey, this particular data set came at this particular time. And that's very useful for certain reports because, there's a report that has to constantly update, and you need to make sure that when that form updates, you can go back to a period in time where you can see some data. That today function will help you out with that. All right, so like I said, it's a very powerful tool. We're going to unlock some of these functions. We're going to get into what it is that they do. We're going to go through some syntax, kind of give you a little bit of basic understanding of how to create these formulas. I know it may be a little difficult to follow this session and be able to understand how to be an expert at it, but just like any other thing, repetition creates expertise. You got to try it out. You got to continue to try it out. Things don't work for you sometimes. You got to try it again. You got to give yourself an opportunity to retain information because it's a lot. But once you know it, then hey, they'll be coming to you and saying, hey, can you do this or do that for me? You're like, right on, give me a second and I'll get it taken care of for you. So, all right. So like I said, we're going to talk about lookups. Now, there's several different lookup functions, and lookups in Excel are functions that allow you to search for and retrieve data from a table or range based on a given value. So just think for a second. Imagine that you got a grocery list from Aldi, and inside of the list has stored inventory, and you want to type in a line item of some sort of name that you've already, had previously, and you want Excel to automatically pull the price for said item. Say if you're looking for a steak because you want to, cook some steaks, or you've been watching Les barbecue and you want to try out this oxtail recipe that this right here would be great for, maybe budgeting or, making sure that whatever items that you want to have, you got those. So you can use a lookup function, so you don't have to look at the entire store inventory and try to go down that sheet and figure out where these items are. You'll be able to look for that item, match it, and return the related information. Trust me on this. You're gonna want to know how to do this. All right, so just by a show of hands, how many of us know what a lookup is? Okay. All right. So how many of us know the different types of lookups? Just by a show of hands. Anyone? Anybody? Did anyone even know that lookups had different types? Okay. All right. So there's several types of lookups. There's a V lookup. There's a H lookup. There's a X lookup. And the difference between those are kind of self-explanatory. So there's a V lookup that it has a certain syntax, and as you'll see here from the slide, that syntax to utilize that V lookup, it looks for a lookup value, a table array, a column index number, and it also has the range that you're looking up. Okay. Now I know all of that is a lot, but what you have to realize is you have to be looking for data in a particular area to actually apply the V lookup for it to actually work. So the V lookup stands for vertical lookup, meaning that whatever you're going to be looking up is going to be in a vertical set. Okay, and it's used to organize the data vertically. So an example might be if you have a ship maintenance status by hull number, then you might want to use a V lookup, and it'll return, like you'll see in statement number 2, the USS Hampton, that's going to be in A2 C10. It's going to be in the second column, and you're going to look for everything that isn't that. So what it's going to do is it's going to invalidate anything that's not that, and it's going to return to you everything associated with the USS Hampton, as long as the table is structured correctly. So it's going to ensure that the value is in the first column of your table, and ensures that everything that is a exact match doesn't return. So, and once we get into the demo, you'll be able to see this a lot better, and I'll be able to explain it a lot better. But that's what a V lookup is for. So our next lookup is the H lookup, or hookah, depending on, if you can, getting a little bit ahead of myself trying to be funny here. Let's fly on back here and talk about our H lookup. Yeah. All right. My apologies. I got a little excited there, people, but we're gonna work through this. All right. So the H lookup, it does the same thing as the V lookup, but it does it horizontally. So let's say that you're looking up a quarterly budget report, and everything is listed on the first row. So again, if you look at the syntax, you're going to use your equal sign to start your lookup. I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but you're going to use your equal sign, and everything has to be in all caps. Okay, so when you type in H lookup, you'll see this parentheses come up, and it'll give you some syntax cues for what it is that you're going to be looking for. So you can be looking up the value, and this is going to be in your top row. You're going to need to select the table that you want to find this with. You're going to need to index the row, or you're going to put the row index into the actual syntax. And the range of the lookup is going to be the entire table. So you're going to need to select the entire table. So you're going to know that this is coming from, let's say, for lack of a better word, a table. You're going to know that we're going to need whatever data from the top row of A, and we're going to need to know, well, you don't not necessarily need the top row, but you'll need to know which row you want to go across. And that's where your row index number will come in. So you'll need to be able to count where this data is. So like here, our row index is 2. So basically everything here, if you're following my cursor, everything that's in row 2 where the arrow is flowing is what data you want to return. And then you want to range index. So you want to say whether it's true or false. And there's a couple of different range indexes that you're going to be able to utilize. But for the most part, it's going to be true or false. And that just means that either I want this to exactly match this, or if it does exactly match it, I want it to be false. Meaning that if this is what you find, return me everything else. Or if you have found this, don't return everything else. And that just depends on true or false. So that's how you accomplish this particular function. And you want to make sure that the values you're looking for are in the first row of your table. Right. So we've learned VLOOKUP, we've learned HLOOKUP, and now we're going to talk about XLOOKUP, the X factor. Okay, so the X factor came in, and remember I was telling you about that you got to start somewhere and then you build on it. Well, those wonderful developers over at Excel, they realized that, you know what, looking horizontally or vertically, that was great in the beginning. But now, in our fast-paced society where everybody's glued to their phone, they don't have time to look up or down and, realize where this information in this table is. They want to just zigzag or X all the way across the table to be able to find what it is they're looking for. And that's where X came in. It works both vertically and horizontally. No need to count columns. It handles missing values better than those two. And it's much more effective. Now, those that are out here that utilize the lookup function, that know how to use X function, they may want to forego using that for the index match, which is something that we'll talk about. But it's really about preference, really, at the end of the day. If you learn the tool and you understand how to utilize it effectively, this X lookup is probably going to be your friend. The index match is going to be a little bit more heavy lifting. You kind of need to know a little bit more about what it is that you're going to be looking for to utilize that. But it's a much more advanced tool. Won't kind of beat a dead horse with going through the syntax to understand exactly what it is that's going on. But as you can see here, there are examples of how to format your syntax to return the data that you're looking for. So, or not return the data that you are looking for. So if it's something that you don't want to see, it can also give you the information, say, yep, it's not found here. So that's a great tool here. So we're going to slide on to the next one here. All right. So here's our next one, and this is going to be index match. All right, and this is a combo feature, much more flexible and powerful than VLOOKUP, especially when looking up values that aren't in the first column. Again, here's the syntax for it. Of course, it starts with the equal sign. Everything is all caps. You're going to list your array, your row number, and your column number, and then you'll be able to match the lookup value for what it is that you're trying to find. So once you learn how to actually submit your syntax properly or formulate your function properly, and again, I can talk about it, all day long, but you kind of have to get into the keyboard and kind of work around with some data to understand how to format it. And then you got to know what you're looking for to be able to utilize these functions. But this is the index match is way more flexible than those other lookup tools, in the fact that you can kind of take a much more broader scope of data that you want to visualize, and you can kind of submit this into your syntax. And once I'll add this too, those of you who may not know it, you can hard code your formulas into the formula bar. So if you want to find something, you can hard code it, or you can select a cell, and then you can format that cell with a function. And once that cell is formatted correctly, the data that goes into that particular cell, it'll automatically do whatever the function is that you formatted for that cell. And that's powerful because, human error happens all the time. I mean, it's inadvertent. We're not perfect. We would like to be, but when you format that cell with the right formula that you need and that function is working properly, every time that particular cell is updated with new data, that particular function is going to perform its function over and over again. I mean, it's a dynamic tool, and we'll get a chance to look at it in this demo. And I'm also going to share this sheet that I have in the demo. It's a great tool. It's actually functional. You can probably use it today for something that you're utilizing, but it also has some tips and tricks in there to help you understand what the actual function is doing, and also a little bit of reading in there to kind of explain it. And we want to thank Riley Johnson. He took the time to develop this tool. He looked at our last session and he was like, you know what, Corey, I got you back. So he developed this tool for us to be able to demo these lookups, and also he took time to go ahead and explain that in an eloquent manner to where hopefully we can kind of use a little bit of common sense, which we all have, and understand exactly what it is that this actual function does. So shout out to Riley, great guy, and I definitely appreciate him stepping in and helping us out with that. All right, so before we get into our demo, like I said, I wanted to kind of talk briefly about nesting functions. So it lets you combine multiple formulas for powerful automation. So, like the if statement we talked about, and here you see VLOOKUP, you can kind of put all of those into one grand function, if you will. And as you see here in this syntax, and I know it's kind of hard to understand, but basically what you can have done is you can have a particular function build on top of another function to accomplish the common goal. Now, this is way more advanced than what we're going to get into, but the idea behind this is once you know what it is you're looking for, and once you understand how to utilize this tool much more efficiently, you can kind of build on these functions. So you don't have to, receive data and then put it into another cell and then run another function to accomplish a common goal. You can just build that function all in one, and if you format it correctly, you'll actually be able to submit your data into that cell that you format, and it'll do all of the wonderful things that you do, and it'll give you the results that you're actually looking for. Very, very powerful tool. So nested functions is something that if you're going to be utilizing Excel and you're going to, take it to the next level as far as learning what it is that these functions do and applying it to your workflow, I'm almost 100% positive that you're going to get to a nested function at some point in time in your journey. So nested functions is a tool that, like I said, it's not something that we want to focus on today because we're still trying to understand exactly how powerful these tools are and how we can build our skill set up to make ourselves much more dynamic when it comes to utilizing Excel. But once we get there and once we feel confident and comfortable, by all means, start nesting these functions and really start setting yourself apart. All right. So is everybody ready? This time around, are we ready to push the pedal to the metal, redline this thing, and really get something accomplished? If we're ready, let me see some reactions. Let me know that everybody's following it and we're ready to get this thing accomplished. There we go. I knew Janet would have my back. I already knew it. If I couldn't count on one person in this building, I knew Janet was gonna have my back. So thank you for that, Janet. We're ready to go. So we're going to get this thing going. All right. So let's get started. Let me go ahead and bring up our demo. All right. So we'll get a second here to let our demo come together. We're all seeing it. Is everybody seeing my cursor in the middle of the screen? Good deal. We see our cursor here. Screen is sharing effectively. We're all good to go. So here's our table here. This is the data that we're going to be working with. Here's our useful formulas and our cheat sheet. So like I said, it's got our formula types here. So we got our V lookup, our X lookup, we got our index match, we got our H lookup here. And here, down here, we got some ifs, some ifs, count ifs. And these are much more advanced, but they'll showcase what those nested functions look like. So, all right, so the V lookup, the vertical lookup is this is when we're trying to realize what's in our leftmost column. So, and we're clicking to this cell. And again, like I was telling you, Riley took the time to give us some tools and tips about what it is that we're looking for. He explains that the index is only the first column, which can be tedious and is static. So everything that's over here on the left-hand side is what we're actually trying to, find. Also here is the formula bar that I spoke of. Kind of gives you an explanation. As you see, it starts with the equal sign up here. You got the V lookup in all caps. And I notice it's kind of difficult to understand, but if you see here the search value, so basically what we're saying is, we read this correctly, we're saying, hey, V lookup, for our search value and our table, which is the Audi shopping list, we want to match the columns that are desired by the search value in the Audi list, and we want to make sure that here in index 0, everything that isn't what we're looking for is not returned. So I'm going to drop down the menu. Let's see here. Select our cell here, and we're going to be looking in this row right here. So we're going to hear our drop down, and what we want to know is do we have raspberries in the top row? And it doesn't look like we have it. So let's see here. But let's say if we want to know the color of raspberries, now we know that if we're looking for the color of raspberries, we know that it's red. So we also know that red is in the top row. So if you find raspberries here, and you'll notice that our raspberries in this row here has a color of red, then it's going to return our value. So let's say we want to know what the price of our raspberries are. See where our raspberries are. Let's see if we can highlight this a little bit better. All right. So our raspberries are $4. So basically, what we need to do with this formula is we need to identify what our search value is first. Okay, so we want to find everything in this left-hand column here. So, all right, we're going to make a fruit salad, and we need blueberries. All right, so we're going to select our blueberries. Here we got our blueberries, and we have that teenager, and that teenager that They're glued to the phone. You give them a shopping list and it's like, hey, you know what? I need you to go in and I need you to get these blueberries. Now, they're not going to count money. They're definitely not going to take the time to look between raspberries or blackberries, anything like that. They're just going to go in there. So you say, hey, you know what? I want you to find the fruit aisle, and I want you to return with this color of a fruit. Well, what is the fruit color? I'll tell you what, if we're looking for raspberries, you tell him it's blue. He looks at this row here. He says, you know what? I know I'm looking for a blueberry, and I know it's in this row, but what color is a blueberry? Because I don't know anything. It's not on this, it's definitely not on TikTok. But you know what? It's right here if you're using VLOOKUP. It's a pretty cool tool. So I know that that's kind of like a cheesy little example or everything like that, but the gist of it is that this formula is working correctly. So all we're doing is selecting items here in the left-hand column, apple, and we're selecting some desired outcome, which an apple, let's say, how much is an apple? Apple looks like it's $6. Apples are going up just like gas prices. $6. So to me, that's a win-win. That formula is working. I mean, it could be anything that you're looking for, but if you got this formula in place and you know that when you put that data in there and you select the actual values that you're looking for, boom, that's going to be great. That's going to work for you. That's going to make life that much more useful, especially when you got a table that's, I mean, bigger than our screen here. And now you got to consume some data and you got to realize where this data is without having to count the rows and everything like that. That's going to be something great that you can do. All right, but the real thing is that it's got to go vertically and it's got to go across the row for this particular tool to work. So now we're going to look at an X lookup. Now, essentially, X should give us, you know, data from different sources. So let's look at this. Let's look at the syntax. So here for the X, it says X lookup our search value and our Aldi's item list and return us the index for Aldi. And it's going to give us, we're looking for a 0. Let's see here. Hang on for 1 second. Because even sometimes I need a little bit more help. All right. So it's going to give us our lookup value, our lookup array, our return array. If it's not found, which match mode, and what's the search mode. So here you got several different match modes in here, and the search mode here is not found. So let's see here. So we're looking for kiwi, and we're looking for the price of kiwi, and it's telling us here that the kiwi is $3. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is a great tool, but as you can see here, when you change that first row, you see that we're looking for strawberries now. And it took me a minute to kind of understand what was going on. But like that price for the strawberries automatically updated to $5. All right, so if you see When I changed strawberries, the price went to $5. Now we're gonna go to bananas because I'm allergic to it, but we're gonna look for bananas, and price of bananas are $9. So when I change this, should change the actual value and the value to $9. There you have it. So the difference here between apples is when you change apples to chicken. Wait a minute now. I'm speaking a little bit too soon here, but looks like our formulas may be syntactically the same. Okay. All right, so I think our formulas are returning the same values because they have the same syntax here. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue here, but the idea is that this formula that we're utilizing here is returning the values depending on whether or not we're changing these desired outcomes or desired search criteria. So I do believe we might have a bit of redundancy here with our syntax, but the actual function itself, which I'm not certain why this is. Let's see if we can look up index and match. It looks like index match has the same syntax here. So let's try this H lookup, see if that's H lookup will give us a different value here. All right. All right, so H lookup, here we have here veggies. So we're searching for veggies, and let's see if we can understand this correctly. Snack. So looking for an item here, but let's give us a price. So I do believe that the and this cheat sheet could be wrong. I do believe that the H lookup should actually be the V lookup. I think what we have here is this is looking inside of the. Let's check this syntax here. I think I have see what the syntax says. Lookup value, table array, row index number, and range lookup. So I think there's a syntax error here, or either the label is incorrect. But as you can see, it's returning some different values. So it's not giving you the price, which is in the column right next to it. But what it will give you is, color, where is color at? Item. All right. So let's see. $6.45 would be a radish. So it's giving you the price of the radish, which would be, oh yeah, it is working. Okay. So you're looking for your radish and you're looking for your item, and it's giving you the value that's horizontal from that cell. So you come over here, your item is going to be your radish, and it's giving you the price, but I'm not certain why. All right, so we're gonna move on from this one, but I'm gonna share this document with you nonetheless, and then we can kind of work back on. You can manipulate these formulas however you feel. So, but essentially, these different formula types that you see here are listed in this particular row. You can select the value row, which will give you the actual formula that's outlined here. So it's calling itself H lookup, X lookup, index match, and H lookup. I'm not certain if the actual syntax of this particular function is correct, but it is returning some data, so it's still functional. You just have to kind of read through the syntax, and like I said, I'm gonna share it with you to kind of understand, and then we can kind of work back on it. But the fact of the matter is once these functions are populated and you actually start submitting data into these cells, you'll start to return data that you're looking for. So we just kind of, like I said, repetition is going to be your best friend here. So we'll kind of work with that. But let me because we're running short on time, and let me show you this if statement. Let's see here. Thought I had my search criteria here somewhere. I don't. But basically, the formula is saying that basically, if I could show you that if both of these cells are blank, then return blank. But if there's data in this cell, now I know this one works, then return where the data is located. So let's say return data here in this cell, and let's click off of it, and there you have it. Cell 1 has data in it, and that's the if statement. So like I said, I knew this one was formatted correctly. So that one has no data in it, and it's saying it is a value in it. When you click off of it, boom, it goes back. All right. So like again, second, if I can spell, second time is a charm. So let's click off of it, and there you've got cell 2 telling you that there's some sort of value there. Now it's not returning what that actual value is, but there's an if statement in place that's letting this cell know that, hey, this has some sort of data here, and it's formatted with the if statement. I wish I could show you that if statement, but I'm not able to pull up the syntax to show you in place. But me trying to explain it to you nonetheless might be a little bit more difficult than what is really worth at this point in time. But there you have it, folks. That's pretty much what we were trying to see here. Hopefully that was a lot more smoother than Tuesday's session. So we were able to see the formulas. We were able to see some data being manipulated. It's one of those type of things where you came on Tuesday, you found out about formulas. We had a little bit of difficulty working through our syntax. Today, we got some syntax to work. It may not actually work in the favor that we're looking for, but a little bit more studying, a little bit more work with these documents, and some practice will make us all that much more effective. And the actual takeaway from this is that nonetheless, those formulas do work. We just have to appropriately apply those to the actual data sets to return what it is that we're looking for. So let's talk about a couple of things that hopefully we got from this. Like I said, we got to try these out a few times. Repetition helps build confidence and speed. focus on understanding what each function does and when to use it in your day-to-day work. And that's going to be key to making sure that when you actually get the syntax correctly, it actually returns what you're looking for and you're applying it correctly. Don't worry about memorizing it. Get comfortable with the logic behind the function. If, X, lookup. We didn't get into text join and everything like that, but make sure you actually focusing on what it is that it's doing as opposed to trying to remember it, because like I said, there's helpful hints when you try to type in the function, and then there's all different types of literature to understand what it is. Yeah, like I said, take some time, think through what each formula does and what it's solving, and this will help you use it for what it is that you're going to be doing at work, or wherever you plan on applying these things. So just take some time to think about how's the data structured. Is everything coming top down? Is it going right to left? Is it everywhere? Like, what is it that you need? Find a use case, practice it, and it's going to work for you. Start slow. Don't try to do things like, oh, I've seen this at one point, or I've seen somebody do this, so it's got to be simple. Don't look at it like that. Take your time, get one thing to work. Like I said, I couldn't get those functions to work like I needed to, but I knew that if statement was working for me, so I moved on to something that I knew worked. Kind of felt a little bit more confident. You do the same thing. You apply those tools, it's going to work for you. Use the Excel formula bar and the helper tools. They're there to help you and guide you so you can learn. Don't be afraid to try these things out. Like I said, trial and error makes the best teacher. And then if all else fails, come and ask somebody. There's somebody in here that knows a little bit more about it than me. There's somebody in here that knows a little bit more about it than that person. There's somebody here that probably doesn't know more about it than Sean DeMille. But there's always somebody here for us. Let's keep Sean in prayer, because he's going through some great times here to rebuild his strength and everything like that. We just want to keep him lifted up. But I'll leave on this note saying that growth comes from learning, experimenting, and adapting. So every step is a step in the right direction. So here, while we got a couple more minutes, we've been through, most of these sessions by now. We know what's going on. This was the advanced session for Excel. You should probably understand why at this point in time. But moving forward, what's going to be coming up is next week we're going to be starting on PowerPoint. We're going to get into the basics of that, because this wonderful session here was built on a slide deck. If you notice all of the nice, useful, helpful transitions, all of this was done in PowerPoint. So we're going to jump into that. And the following Thursday, we're going to be doing PowerPoint Advanced. We're going to be doing a lot more advanced options. We're going to be showing you how to share PowerPoint in teams. And it's kind of like a nested function. We're going to be building on those things. And then from there, we're going to be moving on to some much more cooler tools like Microsoft Forms. I can't wait to get that session going, because we're going to have everybody participate in a live demo so you guys can get involved, and then we're going to build out a tool that we're going to all utilize. So that's going to be fun. And then we're going to Power Automate the following session, which is going to be the Tech Thursday, and we're going to have some fun with that. But thank you guys. It's great that you guys were able to come back. Hopefully this one went a lot more smoother than the previous ones. I feel a lot more comfortable and confident. Take some time to give yourselves a pat on the back. You made it through. We appreciate that. Here, we're all just, striving for excellence, and it just takes time. So don't feel bad. We'll get it right, and we'll just keep on trying. So thank you guys again. We're right at time this time, so kind of worked out well. And I want to thank JP, want to thank Olivia, want to thank Greg, Eddie, Thomas, Mike, Sheila for dropping in some hints last time. Again, thank Riley, thank Heather for coming on. But yeah, thank you guys. We're right at time, so it's been a wonderful session, and I look forward to the next.